Shocking truths. What your blood type reveals about your soul's dark secrets. The whispers had begun to circulate again. People were nervous, doing double takes at their screens as a chilling truth emerged. Blood types weren't just biological identifiers. They were windows into the deepest, darkest corners of the human soul. In a small town, nestled amidst thick evergreens and the haunting silence of winter, strange occurrences led to chilling discoveries. A woman in a red scarf clutched her coat tight as she recounted how her neighbor's quiet demeanor transformed overnight into something terrifying. Yes and O negative. You never know what they're capable of, she exclaimed, eyes wide with panic. Folks began to investigate. Rummaging through old records, they noted how the same blood types shared traits. O types harbored secrets, while A types were often consumed by guilt. It was the kind of stuff you'd read about in the glossiest of tabloids. Late at night, they'd hear murmurs like, "Why is Samantha so obsessed with conspiracy theories now?" It was almost like the blood was speaking, pulling them toward untold stories of betrayal, violence, and whispered sins as shadows deepened. Stirring fears took root. People began sharing their own strange tales. A young man with A positive blood claimed to have glimpsed a spirit at the bottom of the lake that seemed to pull at him with an icy grip. "I swear it was my grandmother," he said, voice cracking. What did that mean for him? For those around him? Questions hung in the air, thick with tension. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But the most bizarre twist came when a blood drive revealed a shocking anomaly. A rare blood type, AB null, had appeared out of nowhere. An eerie silence fell over the town as news spread like wildfire. "I've never seen or heard of it," a medical expert gasped at the clinic, his hands trembling. What secrets did this mysterious blood type carry? And who did it belong to? As desperate inquiries began to unfold, and fears swirled, the question loomed, bigger than any known life, could your blood type truly dictate the darkness lurking within? As the winter dusk settled like a thick shroud over the town, Barbara, the local librarian, huddled over old hospital records in the flickering light of her dim desk lamp. The air was heavy with the scent of musty pages and unanswered questions. She searched for clues that might explain the mysterious AB null blood type. What sort of person possessed this rare type, and what darkness could it conceal? The more she read, the more tangled her thoughts became. AB null, she whispered to herself, the name sending a shiver down her spine. She knew this wasn't just a medical curiosity. The whispers in town had grown louder, more urgent. The coffee shop buzzed with rumors. The diner echoed with dread-laden conversations, and every glance exchanged between neighbors felt fraught with accusation. "Is it true?" A timid voice broke her concentration. It was James, the young man who had seen the spirit at the lake. His eyes darted around as if he feared the truth itself would jump out at him. "Did you find anything about that blood type?" "I'm trying, James," Barbara replied, rubbing her temples. "There's not much on it, but the few notes I've seen hint at some troubling things." "What do you mean?" he pressed, leaning closer, his breath hitching in the cold air. "AB null is linked to heightened abilities, but also to," she hesitated, weighing the impact of her words, "different psychological traits. Traits that could bend toward the darker side of humanity." His face pale, James recoiled slightly. She could see the fear overtaking him, transforming his innocence into something wary and sharp. "Who are we even talking about? Who has this blood type?" An icy gust blew through the open window, causing the pages to flutter. Barbara shut her eyes briefly as unease settled into her bones. "They say the last confirmed case was years ago. The person disappeared, vanished without a trace." The tension in the room thickened, wrapping around them like a noose. They had both been sensing that the appearance of Abinul was more than just a medical anomaly. It was an invitation to the unknown, a beckoning into a netherworld of secrets that demanded to be unveiled, each thread danger-woven and sinister. "I want to know," James announced suddenly, a fire igniting in his voice, shaking off his fear. "I need to know what's happening. You feel it too, don't you? The atmosphere is changing. Something is coming." Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, igniting a primal instinct to flee. The town's once reassuring silence transformed into a cacophony of panic as people began congregating outside the clinic, eyes wide with dread and speculation. Secrets threatened to spill, and the very fabric of their small community hung in the balance. "I'm going out there," James declared, standing up abruptly. "I can't sit here while the town spirals into chaos. I need to find out who that blood belongs to." Barbara grabbed his arm, urgency piercing her chest. "Wait, you don't know what you could be walking into. I know it's dangerous, but if there's a truth buried out there, it's better to uncover it." "I senti it?" He stared into her eyes, his determination both admirable and terrifying as the thunder of their hearts echoed the sirens in the night. They stood on the brink of revelation, teetering on the edge of madness. What if this revelation could shatter their perception of safety, twisting their reality into a mirror of horror? And just as they reached that precarious moment, a shadow slipped past the window, a figure clad in darkness, with eyes that gleamed with an unsettling, knowing light. Before either could react, the figure vanished into the swarm outside. Who were they? And what did they know? The night held its breath, waiting for answers, and as icy wind slammed the door behind James, one question echoed louder than the rest. Would they dare follow the darkened path into the unknown? James burst through the door, the chill of the night wrapping around him like a shroud. Barbara's heart raced as she watched him navigate through the throngs of people outside. She hesitated, torn between the urge to follow him and a nagging dread that pulsed through her. The crowd, restless and agitated, swelled outside the clinic, their faces painted with fear and confusion. Whispers spiraled into the night, each voice contributing to the growing anxiety. Barbara stepped into the chaos, her instincts driven by an unquenchable need to protect James. "James!" she shouted, trying to cut through the din. "Wait for me." He paused, turning to her, a mix of determination and vulnerability flashing in his eyes. "I can't stand back and let fear dictate our lives anymore. I need to know. We need to know." As he departed into the roiling mass, a feeling of foreboding burrowed deep in her gut. Panic erupted amongst the townsfolk. Rumors that had been simmering beneath the surface now boiled over. Did someone see the ghost again? One woman shrieked, clutching her husband's arm tightly. Or maybe it's something worse. A man nearby shot her a glare, anger contorting his features. "Keep your wild stories to yourself. There's enough to worry about as it is." With adrenaline surging, Barbara pushed forward, her eyes scanning the faces, searching for James. They needed to uncover the truth before whatever was lurking in the shadows drew them further into madness. A clang echoed nearby, and she whirled around to see a commotion breaking out, a group shouting about something that lay in the alley behind the clinic. "What's happening?" Barbara asked breathlessly, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she joined the gathering. Someone pointed toward the back entrance, voices rising in a chaotic blend of fear and intrigue. A sense of dread swept over her, a cold sweat trickling down her spine. "Stay back," a voice bellowed, but the crowd surged forward, driven by morbid curiosity. Barbara pushed her way through, desperate to clear her mind. Whatever they had stumbled upon had to connect back to the Abinul blood type. They couldn't be alone in this. The answers had to be somewhere amidst this madness. Suddenly, James emerged from the crowd, breathless and flushed. "There's something back there," he gasped, urgency painting his voice with a thrill of terror. "Then let us go," Barbara urged, feeling her heart race at his palpable fear. Together, they navigated toward the alley, drawn like moths to the looming darkness. The air felt electric, a feisty tension buzzing around them as they crept towards a gathering of figures near a flickering street lamp. As they drew closer, a collective gasp escaped the crowd. There, lying on the ground, was a body, A flicker of recognition shook Barbara's core, a familiar face, twisted in a mask of terror. It was a local farmer, a quiet man known for his tough exterior. How he ended up here under these circumstances was a mystery that sent shockwaves through the crowd. James bent down, eyes wide with horror. He hesitated, his voice hushed. The blood, it's... Barbara's breath hitched as she stepped closer, her hands trembling. There was no mistaking it. The crimson liquid pooling around him shimmered under the dim light, dark and unnatural like ink bleeding into parchment. The crowd murmured, fragmentary thoughts soaring wildly. What does this mean? Someone muttered. Are we safe? But as the chilling realization struck Barbara, a new fear gripped her tightly. If this was connected to Abinul, the town was spiraling into something darker than she had ever imagined. James, she whispered, feeling the weight of impending doom pressing down on her. What have we gotten ourselves into? Just as she turned to him, a chilling sound pierced the air, like a breath lost too long in the night. Eyes darted across the crowd, panic igniting once more. A figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette stepping forward with an unsettling confidence. Eyes gleaming with knowledge that was both menacing and monstrous as the shadow loomed. Barbara and James could feel the darkness closing in, the danger becoming palpable. What secrets did this figure hold? And what lay beyond the threshold of revelation waiting to be unleashed? The figure stepped into the flickering light, revealing a face that was both familiar and hauntingly alien. It was Dr. Vargas, the town's physician, but the gleam in his eyes betrayed an unsettling shift. He wore a smirk, a cruel twist to his lips that ignited a chorus of gasps from the terrified crowd. Ah, the helpless sheep have gathered to witness the slaughter, he mused, his voice smooth but dripping with malice. Have you come to accept your fate, or merely to gawk at the truth? Barbara felt her blood run cold. This was not the compassionate doctor she once knew. This was someone far more sinister. She glanced at James, who stood rigid beside her, fists clenched and jaw tight. The tension in the air was thick, suffocating. She opened her mouth to speak, but words withered on her tongue. He's dead, Vargas. A voice rang out from the crowd, slicing through the suffocating silence. You have to do something. Do something? Vargas laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Do you truly want to know what happened to him? Or are you content to remain in blissful ignorance? Barbara took a step forward, heart pounding. What do you mean? What did you do to him? Anger surged through her as the truth clawed at the edges of her consciousness. Fear gripped her soul, but she steadied her voice. This isn't just about him, is it? It's about all of us. A flicker of surprise crossed Vargas's face, quickly shadowed by a hardened gaze. I'm impressed, Barbara. You may just be worth your blood type after all, he replied, his voice laced with a strange excitement. Do you really know what this town has become? What you're all a part of? The crowd murmured anxiously, shifting on their feet. Barbara looked around, horror dawning as she realized it wasn't just fear. They felt it was a palpable dread, a collective understanding of their own vulnerability. James finally spoke, a hint of defiance quaking in his voice. You're sick, Vargas. You can't keep doing this. We deserve to know the truth. Truth? Vargas echoed. The truth is a double-edged sword, James. Can cut deeper than you know. He stepped closer to the body, bending down as if in reverence. This man was merely the first. The gravest consequences lie ahead. The crowd gasped simultaneously, grasping at what that might mean. Barbara felt the weight of every pair of eyes on her, as if they were searching for answers she didn't possess. If you want to survive, Vargas continued, standing again, you must understand what you truly are. Your blood will reveal it all. He locked his gaze on Barbara, as if she were the very embodiment of his twisted experiment. But do you dare to find out? Panic surged through Barbara, drowning her instincts. She scanned the faces around her, the growing terror in their eyes reflecting her own. What could be worse than this disease of the mind spreading through the town? The question gnawed at her. Are we to become your subjects? She whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. Vargas shrugged, a flicker of dark glee in his smile. Subjects? Or maybe chosen ones, he replied with a sinister edge. Time will tell, one Tiet. In that moment, Barbara felt the world tilt. Secrets that had lurked beneath the surface for so long were clawing their way into the light, threatening to unravel everything she thought she knew about their town, their lives, and most chillingly, themselves. As the night deepened, the silhouettes around her started shifting, darkening, twisting into shadows of fear and suspicion. Why had they gathered here, and who would pay the price to uncover the truth? A chilling wind swept through the alley, carrying the scent of decay and something more primal. Could they escape the horrors lurking in the dark? She grasped James's hand tightly, the only solid connection in a sea of uncertainty. But the question lingered ominously in her mind. Was it too late to turn back? The darkness began to seep into their hearts, and as Barbara looked up at Vargas, she felt the chill of realization sink in. Whatever twisted truth lay ahead, they were already entangled in its web. What would they unearth the deeper they delved into their fears? The crowd stood frozen, an orchestra of fear, each face reflecting the night's mounting dread. Barbara could see the doubt, the denial creeping into their eyes. Vargas's chilling declaration hung in the air, a heavy fog that wrapped around their hearts and squeezed. What do you mean by our blood? Barbara's voice cracked as she faced Vargas, desperation clawing at her throat. What are you planning? Vargas took a deliberate step closer, his figure looming like a storm cloud, ready to unleash hell. Your blood holds power, my dear, a power that grants me control. You see, I've been studying the potential within each of you. His smile widened, revealing teeth that seemed sharper, more predatory. Studying? James echoed, his voice trembling with barely contained fury. You were our doctor. You took an oath. This ISNT research, it's madness. And yet, madness is often overshadowed by genius. Vargas turned, revealing the body crumpled in the shadows. This man learned too late. His blood spoke to me, revealed secrets I could not ignore. The others? His gaze swept over the crowd. They are mere vessels, waiting for their truths to emerge. The crowd gasped again, but Barbara felt the pulse of realization thrumming through her veins. They weren't just victims. They were potential subjects in Vargas's twisted game. Panic twisted into something harder: determination. No, she shouted, her voice raw but resolute. We 1T become your test subjects. You can't control us. Vargas laughed, low and sinister. Control? You misunderstand. It's about awakening, understanding who you truly are. He stepped back, as if presenting a grand reveal. Each blood type, each unique makeup tells a story of its bearer. The darkest tales of fears and insecurities will come to the surface. How far are you willing to go, Barbara? The implications were staggering. The crowd's fear morphed into a palpable energy, and Barbara felt their collective heartbeat, a rhythm of desperation, seeking answers, justice, survival. But had any of them truly considered what Vargas offered? What horrors lay lurking inside their own souls, just waiting for the light to shine on them? James took a step forward, demanding all the courage he could muster. You think we're just going to let you do this? You think we're going to stand and let you experiment on us? Let me experiment? Hardly, Vargas replied, amusement dancing in his eyes. You are already mine. The very act of gathering here, in this moment, binds you to me. Your fears, your aspirations, each pulse screams for acknowledgement. How can I resist? A silence engulfed the crowd, filled only by the sound of Barbara's heart racing in her chest. Would they really allow themselves to be dragged down this dark path? But then, a spark of defiance ignited among them. One person began to chant, "No more, no more." The chant grew, a rumble of strength rising from the depths of the crowd. Barbara felt chills on her skin, adrenaline pumping as they surged forward together, united against the darkness Vargas wielded. But Vargas stood unfazed, the smirk never leaving his lips. This anger you wield? It's nothing but fuel for the fire. And where there's fire, there's purification. What a grand display we're about to have. His words hung ominously, and Barbara's gut twisted with dread. What awaited them next? Would this journey unveil their darkest truths or lead them deeper into Vargas's madness? The unity of the crowd shook the ground beneath them, but Barbara wasn't so sure this was the path to safety. As they surged forward, what horrors would the dawn bring? Would they rise as phoenixes or be consumed by the very darkness they sought to conquer? The chant echoed through the night, a raw, desperate wave of sound that pushed against Vargas's cold demeanor. Barbara's heart raced in rhythm with the crowd, their unity a fierce counter to the dark energy Vargas radiated. But uncertainty gnawed at her. How could they possibly combat a man who had twisted science into some grotesque puppetry? "Do you feel it?" Vargas declared, arms outstretched, reveling in the moment as if the chaos fed him. "The awakening is near. Let it come. Let it unfold." His laughter rang out, a haunting melody that churned Barbara's stomach. The crowd hesitated for a moment, a taut string wavering in the grasp of fear and courage. But as Barbara looked around, she saw faces that mirrored her determination. People she'd known for years, their lives suddenly hanging in the balance of Vargas's malignant grip. "I know you," she shouted, voice cracking under the weight of emotion. "You're not just blood. You're hope, love, sacrifice. You won't let him turn this into a nightmare." Hand in hand, the people pushed forward, fed by Barbara's words. The tide began to shift. Their fear ignited into something else: fury, refusal, a drive to reclaim their lives. Yet as they drew nearer, Vargas's expression shifted into grim pleasure. "Ah, the bond of ignorance. How naive you are." He chuckled darkly, pulling something from the pocket of his coat. A syringe was glimmering in the moonlight, a reminder of power he wielded like a magician's wand. "You don't even know what you're asking for." The collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Barbara felt dread pooling deep within her. What did he plan to do with that? "Your blood will receive a different tune, my dear. You will all open the portal into the abyss." He smiled that predatory smile again, eyes glinting with madness. "Let me show you what lies beneath. First, the strongest. Step forward." "Barbara." She froze, eyes wide. "What? No. I won't let you. Such spirit." He taunted, and like a mate in a game of chess, he pushed forward, daring her to move. The crowd grew restless, apprehensive murmurs weaving through them like smoke. "Vargas, listen to me." James stepped forward, gripping Barbara's shoulder tightly. "This is not who we are. We won't lose ourselves to you, not now." His words pierced through the tension, igniting flickers of resolve among them. Yet Vargas sneered, the excitement of the hunt brewing within him. "And yet here you stand, so eager to deny yourselves what you are meant to uncover. This is a chance and evolution. Who among you will be the first to face their truth?" Before Barbara could process the horror of it, he started to pace, plotting his next move, a predator surveying its cornered prey. "The strongest among you must lead. Who of you is willing to sacrifice for the others? To step into the eye of the storm?" Barbara's mind whirled with contradictions. Courage stood shoulder to shoulder with fear. The choices ahead felt immense, almost insurmountable. She looked at the bewildered faces around her, realizing that Vargas's game wasn't just about blood. It was about sacrifice, revealing who was willing to face their soul's darkest shadows. "Are we really going to let him turn us into something grotesque?" she whispered, scanning the crowd again. "What will you choose?" The silence that followed was deafening, thick with unspoken fears. Then someone joined Barbara, stepping out into the uncertain light. One brave soul against the darkness. Before she could catch her breath, more voices began to emerge, struggling through the uncertainty. "I'll do it. And me too," followed by a swell of voices declaring their willingness. And as they spoke, a question lurked in the shadows of the gathering. Was facing the truth worth the risk of losing themselves forever? As Barbara watched, a chilling realization uncoiled in her mind. Vargas was not just revealing their blood. He was laying bare their very souls. And then, beneath the chance-layered voices pushing upward, another sound emerged. The distant roar of sirens cut through the night. Was it rescue or a different nightmare? More potent than their fears could predict. The decision loomed closer than ever. Would they embrace the truth Vargas offered, or would the sirens herald their salvation, or their doom? The night thickened, cloaking the gathering in shadows deeper than despair. Vargas stood there, exuding an unsettling calmness as the din of willing souls swelled around him. With each shout, the resolve of the crowd pushed against the tide of his maniacal energy. Barbara's heart sank. Fear clawed inside her, twisting and turning like a coiled serpent. They're choosing the darkness, she murmured, pulse roaring in her ears. Who were they to offer themselves to Vargas? But even as despair tinged her thoughts, she felt something else, a flicker of strength hidden in her chest, an ember refusing to die. Stop this, Barbara shouted, desperation seeping into her voice. You don't understand what you're giving up. This isn't evolution. It's a trap. She scanned the faces, each illuminated momentarily by the moonlight, illuminated flashes of uncertainty drowning amidst bold declarations. Think before you leap. But Vargas leaned closer, drunk on their anticipation. Let them choose. Let them feel the weight of their own blood. It's a gift, don't you see? The truth, that which lies deep within. He gestured grandly, mockingly waiting to be unleashed. The atmosphere grew electric. James gripped Barbara's hand tighter, his eyes wide, fear shadowing his features. We have to do something. If even one of them loses themselves, then we all lose. She cried back, panic breaking the surface. The sirens were now only a heartbeat away, each wail sharp enough to pierce through the thrumming energy in the air. Vargas was relentless, feeding off their anxiety. You want to face your truths, don't you? Step forward, and I'll guide you. The syringe gleamed ominously in the moonlight, like it held promises wrapped in nightmares. Barbara's thoughts raced back to the times they had laughed, shared dreams, faced challenges together. This isn't the way. She choked out as voices raised in a feverish hymn surged toward Vargas, as if drawn to a flame, leaving their reason behind. Then she saw them, the crowd's courage shifting, morphing as some waved their arms in wild excitement, begging Vargas to take them into the depths of himself. It made her stomach churn. They were skipping straight into madness. Suddenly, an unsteady voice broke through the cacophony, one of her childhood friends, Mark, tentatively stepping forward. Maybe we should see for ourselves. His eyes flickered with something unmistakable, a thawing of his inner warmth. Mark, no, don't. The words escaped her as if they had claws. She pushed through the crowd, grabbing his arm, frantic. You don't want this. Face your truth, yes, but not like this. There's got to be another way. He looked back at her, torn. But what if it's real? What if his hesitation shuddered in the air, dividing the crowd between fear and hope? Murmurs rippled, embers of doubt reigniting. What if we're stronger than he thinks? What if we can face it all together? Someone shouted, and it felt like the winds shifted. The discord was building, a storm on the brink of exploding, each declaration a spark among the gathered. But Vargas fed on their tension, his smile stretching wider, eyes alive with turmoil. Choice. Choices made under pressure are the truest form of freedom. He coaxed, his voice dripping with allure. But freedom at what cost? The sirens roared closer, giving urgency to the moment, a heartbeat echoing through the chaos. Just then, as the air crackled with indecision, Vargas lifted the syringe high, a beacon to some, a warning to others. Who will take the first plunge into destiny? Barbara's heart hammered violently. Time stilled, breaths drawn in anticipation. She locked her gaze on Vargas. You think fear makes you powerful, but love holds an unimaginable force. You're wrong. We're stronger together. But would her words resonate? Or would the sirens scream judgment over their decisions? A reminder that perhaps salvation wasn't as simple as they wished? Life hung in the balance, and somewhere in that tension, the truth twisted precariously in the shadows, waiting for a fateful choice. Would Barbara find a way to turn the tide, or was she just watching it all slip away, a witness to her friend's collective downfall? As the words hung in the air, a deafening silence followed. The crowd, once a tumult of shouts and pleas, seemed frozen, caught in the gravity of Barbara's declaration. All eyes shifted between Vargas and her, uncertain. The moonlight cast deep shadows across their faces, amplifying the fear that gripped their hearts. Vargas, finally breaking the stillness, tilted his head, amusement bubbling in his voice. Love, my dear, is a fleeting emotion, easily snuffed out. But darkness? That's eternal. He slowly lowered the syringe, clearly savoring the moment. Embrace it, and you will truly know yourselves. Are you not tired of pretending? Do you want to wake up? His voice dripped with seduction. Coaxing the fragile resolve, a few in the crowd began to murmur again, voices merging like a low rumble, doubt carving through resolve. Barbara's heart raced. She could feel the shift beneath her feet, a narrowing path against the growing darkness. Mark, she called out desperately, locking eyes with her friend. You have to remember who you are. We grew up together, faced challenges, remember our dreams? But Mark's expression blurred between confusion and desire. The intensity of Vargas's influence felt palpable, a weight pushing down upon them. What if Vargas is right? What if this is our true path? He asked, voice trembling yet tinged with curiosity. Don't let him twist your mind, Barbara shouted, fighting back tears. She glanced over the faces of her friends, those she loved, now caught in a maelstrom, eager to leap into the uncertain abyss Vargas painted as freedom. This isn't who we are. We're kinder. We don't need to destroy ourselves to find our strengths. But Vargas erupted in laughter, the sound slicing through her words. Ah, the naivete of love. How quaint. Have you not learned? In pain lies the greatest power. In suffering, true strength. He turned, addressing the crowd. Yearn for the truth, and it shall be delivered. It's time to decide who among you will lead this new way. The atmosphere thickened, buzzes of anticipation surging through the throng. Those once uncertain were now creeping forward, drawn to the idea of shedding their old skin, enticed by promises of empowerment. Barbara's breath caught in her throat. She could feel the despair tightening like a noose. Please, think about this, she shouted, desperation escalating. No one comes back from this. Do you want to erase your memories, your humanity? What will remain if you choose darkness? But Vargas simply smiled, a serpent-esque grin illuminating his features. Ah, but they will become something greater. The myth of the self who wouldn't he want to transcend? At that moment, the sirens screamed louder, drowning out her thoughts, reverberating against the very core of reality. They grew closer, merging with the chaos, a haunting chorus that spoke of impending judgment. Suddenly, one by one, friends began to take tentative steps toward Vargas, their expressions shifting toward hope or madness she couldn't tell anymore. It was as if they sensed an awakening, oblivious to the truth in Barbara's words. In that heartbeat, just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, she felt the flicker in her own chest grow stronger. No, she cried out, forcing her hand into the pocket of her coat, searching for her hidden talisman. Little did anyone know that it held memories of their laughter, their shared moments of joy, and deep-rooted connections forged in love, a power stronger than Vargas's darkness. As the pulse of chaos reached its peak, Barbara raised the small object high, its soft glow a beacon among shadows. Together we are stronger, she shouted, her voice piercing through the tumult. What we crave is so much more than this darkness. Will you let him take that away from us? But would her plea reach them in time? Would they turn back before it was too late? Or would she find herself alone, standing against the tide, clinging to hope while her friends succumbed to the spell Vargas wove? The moment trembled with possibility, and Barbara knew that whatever happened next would change. Everything. The shadows shifted, whispering secrets of fate and choice, leaving her breathless with uncertainty. The climax was inevitable, but at what price? The crowd's murmurs crescendoed into a frenzied chant, voices rising like an angry storm. Barbara clutched the talisman tighter, feeling its warmth seep through her palm, grounding her amidst the chaos. No, she cried again, desperation distorting her pleas. You are more than your fears. You are not alone. Vargas, his eyes glinting with malice, stepped closer to her, the shadows around him twisting and forming chilling shapes that writhed like serpents. You think they will listen to you? He sneered, his voice low and menacing. You speak of love, but love is fleeting. It's the darkness that gives them strength. Barbara's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a reminder of what was at stake. She locked eyes with her friends, searching for signs of recognition, of love obscured by Vargas's manipulation. Look around you, she urged. He can't offer you anything real. Power built on darkness is a power taken at a price, your very soul. Do you truly wish to surrender yourselves to this abyss? But the grappling force of Vargas's voice was pulling them under. Doubt flickered in Marcus' eyes as he glanced toward Vargas, who stood, smug and baptized in shadows. What if this is what S meant for us? He muttered, uncertainty coloring his tone. Mark, please. Barbara's voice cracked, panic threading through her. Remember our sunsets? The laughter we shared? If you step into this darkness, you lose everything. You become someone else entirely. Vargas cut her off with a sharp wave of his hand, raising the syringe. Every single one of you is at a crossroads. Embrace your true power. With me, you'll find what it means to truly live, to feel everything. He turned back to Barbara, taunting her. Or you can cling to pointless memories. What is nostalgia if not an anchor to a sinking ship? The tides of change were threatening to drown her. She fought against the rising tide, desperate for some flicker of understanding. You're not sinking. You can still rise. She thrust the talisman higher, letting its glow radiate across the blackness like a lighthouse guiding lost ships home. The power of our shared joy is greater than the darkness. Come back to that light. Don't let him take it away. With every word, hope swirled within her, but it felt so small against Vargas's raging influence. His laughter echoed off the walls of her heart, taunting her. You think you can save them? You think they care for your sentimentality when they can seize their own fate? A sudden shove from behind jolted Barbara. She stumbled forward, nearly dropping the talisman. The crowd was shifting, bodies moving like grains of sand caught in a relentless wind. Some were still stepping toward Vargas, drawn by the dreamlike embrace of his promises, while others hesitated, caught in the crossfire of confusion and desperation. Stay together. A voice cried from the periphery. It was Lisa, her face pale yet fierce. We won't lose ourselves. Remember who we are. The tension hung heavy as Barbara faced both friends and foes, a battlefield on the cusp of eruption. She could see Maria, just a few feet away, slowly backing away from Vargas, arms trembling as though she was fighting an invisible force. Maria, Barbara shouted. Fight it, please. But Vargas moved with alarming speed, standing right before Maria, his presence a dark command. You see? That's what it does, he said, gesturing toward Barbara with contempt. She wants you to remain shackled to your past, chained by memories. But freedom lies in forgetting. The words carved through the air like a knife. Darkness shimmered like oil, hungry for its next feast. Barbara's breaths quickened, and she fought against despair, trying to conjure every ounce of love, every precious memory that anchored them in this reality. Remember our dreams, our laughter, she implored once more. Wake up before it's too late. Just then, the sirens deafened again, now blaring louder than before. The world felt like it was narrowing, shifting perilously. Anxiety choked Barbara's throat as she realized time was slipping away. Would she lose Mark, Maria, and everyone else before they could turn back? Just as she opened her mouth for another desperate rallying cry, a flicker caught her attention. In horror, she watched as Mark raised his hand, the syringe glimmering ominously, directly aimed at the sky. No, she screamed, her heart plummeting. What are you doing? And just like that, the lights flickered in the distance. Memories of laughter loomed on the edge of darkness, threatening to vanish forever. Would the secret to reclaiming their humanity lie within the dreams they once embraced, or was it too late for them all? The darkness around Barbara pulsed like a living entity, its grip tightening with every beat of her heart. She felt the seconds stretch out, heavy with dread, as she rushed toward Mark. "Mark, no!" she pleaded, reaching for his trembling hand, hoping to break the spell Vargas had cast over him. Tears blurred her vision, but she pressed on, desperation clawing at her throat. "You can't do this. You're better than this madness." He hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his features, a momentary glimmer of the boy she knew. Barbara seized that flicker like a lifeline. "Remember the stories we shared? The dreams we built? You're not just blood. You're spark, joy, community. Don't let him take that away." Mark's wild eyes darted between her and Vargas, who stood, smirking, relishing their emotional clash. "You think memories can shield you from reality?" Vargas sneered, shoving the syringe back into his pocket. "This is the moment of truth, a choice laid bare for everyone. Open your eyes to who you truly are." The air crackled as the crowd simmered with tension, torn between two paths, one leading to the abyss, the other illuminated with the warmth of shared love and memory. Barbara felt a swell of energy rising within her, infusing her voice with urgency. "Listen, we have survived together through storms. We are not alone in this. Every moment we shared proves our strength lies within unity, not darkness." The chant that had faltered began to stutter back to life. "We stand together. We choose love." Countless voices joined in, echoed by the walls that now seemed less like a cage and more like a conduit for their collective spirit. The tide started to shift. Barbara held Marcus' gaze, willing him to see the light in her eyes, the truth he had almost forgotten. Vargas, sensing the ground slipping beneath his feet, stepped forward, panic creeping into his demeanor as he raised his voice above them. "What do you want to believe? That love will save you? It'll only blind you to the reality of what you can be." James, standing resolute beside Barbara, shouted back, "We'd rather be blind to that darkness. It doesn't define us." The murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Slowly, people began to step away from Vargas, shaking off the grip of his words, unity shining in their defiance. As the crowd surged forward, Vargas's rage flared. "Fools! You'll regret this," he spat, his facade cracking under the weight of their rebellion. With a quick motion, he drew the syringe again, but this time, it felt different, tainted with desperation and fear. Barbara took a breath, mustering the strength within her. "We won't submit to you, Vargas. We are who we choose to be." Suddenly, the sirens blared louder, closing in around them. The shrill wail pierced through the thick tension, a cry for rescue or a signal of impending doom. "They're coming!" she shouted, urgency flooding her voice. "We're not going to let him pull us down with him." With a shared determination, the crowd advanced on Vargas, a human wave fueled by love and community. They pressed forward as he twisted backward, panic morphing his features. "What are you doing?" He backpedaled, the syringe glinting menacingly in the flickering light. But the crowd was unrelenting, fear transforming into courage. Barbara felt the power of their unity pushing against the weight of Vargas's darkness, thrusting forward like a spear of light through shadows. "No more." Her voice rose above the din. "We reclaim our stories. We will not be defined by fear or blood. Together, we choose truth." The heart-stopping moment broke in a powerful surge. The crowd engulfed Vargas, who struggled against their overwhelming force, unable to withstand the tide of their collective resolve. With every shout, they reclaimed their stories. With each push, they unpicked the threads that had kept them bound. Suddenly, another figure burst forth through the chaos. It was Vanessa, the local sheriff, her expression fierce as she rushed between the writhing mass. "Step back," she commanded, her authority slicing through the confusion. "Need to take control of the situation." Barbara felt hope swell. "Vanessa, we're not lost. We've found ourselves." As Vanessa assessed the scene, weapon drawn but gaze focused on Vargas, it felt like a final stand against the darkness that had seeped into their quaint town. "What is happening here?" she demanded, her voice sharp as cold steel. Vargas, cornered, unleashed a desperate chuckle. They'd rather walk into their own demise than accept their true selves. Isn't that a fate worth relishing? You're wrong, Barbara retorted, stepping closer, emboldened by the strength of her community surrounding her. They're choosing to define their own truths. Not you, not the darkness. Suddenly, as if in answer, the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, casting a light that bathed the alleyway in stark clarity. The shadows shrank away, unable to withstand the warmth of the new day. The crowd inhaled sharply, a collective realization washing over them. This was a rebirth, an unchaining from the dark grasp of fear. Now, together, Barbara shouted. With one united push, they shoved Vargas back, the syringe falling from his grasp, clattering against the ground like shattered promises. A gasp of relief surged through the crowd as sunlight poured in, bouncing off our hearts like a glorious affirmation of life and love. Vanessa stepped in, cuffing Vargas with swift precision. You're done. No one will be your subject ever again. The tension began to drain, leaving behind a residual crackle of hope. Barbara's gaze swept over her friends, faces illuminated with newfound strength and defiance. We stood here together against the darkness. Our bond is our strength. The murmurs grew louder, voices lifted as confidence bloomed in the clarity of day. Together, we choose love. We are more. As the sirens faded into the dawn, signaling the promise of help arriving, Barbara felt a deep exhilaration fill the space where dread once resided. One chapter had closed, and a new one had begun, radiating warmth and connection through the air. This was the moment they had reclaimed their lives from terror. They would not only survive, they would thrive together. And as the sun broke free, Barbara knew they would remember always, and their stories would become legends woven into the very fabric of their community. Before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now and be part of our growing family. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us keep bringing you these incredible stories. Flood the comments section with your reactions. You know we love hearing from you. And don't forget to share this video with at least 5 friends. They need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Let us spread the word.